I'm going to kind of take the reins, at least for the beginning. My name is Jordan Walker. I'm the Communications and Volunteer Manager. So if there are any people out there that would like to be volunteers, I'm kind of your guy. And John is my boss, so I'm really scared right now. No. I want to really quickly just say thank you. This is the second or third time I think I've talked to Kiwanis, but the last time I talked was like 20 years ago when I was in high school, much like these RVHS students. So I was in the process of applying to be an exchange student and was able to receive some help from the Kiwanis Club and also make some connections in the community. I like to have visuals, so I'm just going to kind of have a couple up here on the screen. For people that don't know about Bethlehem Inn, we're a residential emergency shelter. And the best way I like to explain that is we have people living there for an extended period of time, not just overnight. Because of that, we're able to kind of provide additional services. Up here on our screen is our mission, vision, values. And Elizabeth, thank you for kind of introducing us with the, our mission, which is transforming lives together through shelter, help, and hope. The key piece being together. We need people to join in on that. This is kind of just a graphic to give people an idea of what we do. There's a lot of talk right now about emergency shelters. There's a lot of talk about homelessness. And so I'm just going to give you things from our perspective. Generally speaking, shelters are categorized into these: no barrier, low barrier, and details later. No, this last one says high barrier. So a no barrier shelter is going to be kind of what you're seeing out at Juniper Ridge. So everyone's seen the encampment that's happening on the left-hand side if you're heading into Bend, right? There are no barriers there. And it's a dangerous place, frankly, for the people that are out that way. Next up, you have something low barrier. We have a number of low barrier partners in the area. Low barrier tends to bring people in. They don't necessarily have any checks, bounces as people come into their shelter, and it usually is just overnight. They're a key piece of kind of getting people back on their feet, but those can be really difficult, especially for families and for children, because imagine you find yourself in a situation where am I going to go? A low barrier shelter can be frightening and oftentimes doesn't always have family programs. The last one is high barrier. That's what Bethlehem Inn is. I don't necessarily like the word barrier because I don't think that accurately portrays kind of what we do, but what high barrier is when people come in, we're going to go through things like UAs and BAs, that's your analysis breathalyzers, making sure that people aren't sex offenders when they come in, right? And then having a set of policies that essentially keep everyone safe. Because here's the thing. We have two different locations, one in Bend and one in Redmond. In Bend, we are serving up to 113 single adults every single night of the year and 10 families, and we are full. In Redmond, we're serving an additional 30 to 40 single adults with continued supportive care. That's really essential. It's kind of like the next step up from a shelter because people need that support right now. And to kind of give a breakdown of that, the best way I can encapsulate it is if you are out there, and this is going to scare you guys probably a little bit in the back, but if you're out there, you're a single dude, single lady, and you want to find a place to live in Central Oregon, the median cost of a one-bedroom apartment is $1,700 a month. If you need first month, last month, and a deposit, you're looking at $4,000 or $5,000 just to get into a place, right? To this day, 50% of Americans have less than $500 in their bank account. Blows me away. Now, a lot of those folks, they might have family, friends, places that they can crash, they can get a zero interest loan from their parents, something like that. Not everyone has it. A lot of folks have burned bridges or their family members already, their safety net's overloaded. They can't take anymore. So that's where a shelter like Bethlehem Inn can step in. It provides dignified, compassionate care for people and active case management, which is a key piece up here. Active navigation. Because frankly, getting through everything that you need to do to find stability is really tough alone, especially if you've never had to do it before. Because something that you would learn or find out if you volunteer is people affected by homelessness, it's not just, folks in their 30s and 40s. It's from infants to people in their 80s. Now, if you're 80 years old, you find yourself homeless, and you don't necessarily have a good grasp of, how to navigate online portals and things like that, you're stuck. You need someone there. And the people we work with are amazing. I've been working now with Bethlehem Inn for 4.5 years, and the staff there are the most authentic, compassionate people that you can imagine. And they're no BS, which I like. Because no one has a facade on, right? Everyone's just like real. And when you're dealing with people, you need to be real. When people come in, that case management aspect comes down to this. We assess where the person's at, we make a plan with them, and then they act on it. It is their responsibility. They're accountable for what they're going to be doing next, right? But we're helping them navigate through that. And the thing is, everyone's situation is different. If you're someone that is, retired and maybe has a disability, your situation navigating through homelessness is going to be different than a single mom with 3 kids. So we got to figure out where that person's at, what resources they do have available, and what their next steps are. An example, just really quickly, of how different people's circumstances can be. This is Emilio. Emilio was here in Redmond, was recently a spotlight at one of our events. An amazing individual. You can't see completely here, but his other leg is also amputated. He found himself in a situation where he was escaping gun violence in his family, and he couldn't live there any longer. He worked multiple different jobs, but had diabetes. Wasn't taking care of himself. Ended up getting his legs amputated. Couldn't work anymore. And the process for getting support, disability, takes about a year. Oftentimes longer than that. Well, where do you live for a year if you can't live with your family, friends, right? And you don't have any income? Well, he was able to stay with us. He now lives here in Redmond, just down near the hospital. He is one of the brightest and just like cheerful people that you can ever imagine. And he is looking to get into social services and give back. Incredible. But I know, too, we really want to focus on kids, because that's what you guys did. You helped me at one point, and we're, as an organization, doing this every day. This is Sadie. We're at the position now, we are the longest running shelter in Central Oregon. It's been 26 years. So we're beginning to see the effects that we had on kids all those years ago. And Sadie came back to us about 2 years ago now, and she was profoundly impacted by her time at Bethlehem Inn. She came with her family when she was right around 8, 9 years old. And so the exact memories, concrete memories, aren't fully fleshed out, but what she remembers is that her family, she comes from generational poverty. Her parents were dealing with mental illness and trying to self-medicate. And they found themselves without any housing, not her choice, right? She's just with her parents. And it was cold outside. She says she remembers it being deeply cold. And they came to the Bethlehem Inn. And that was the turning point, not just for her, but also for her parents. Because one of the very first things that you receive when you come to Bethlehem Inn is attention and care. Because for many of the folks that are struggling with houselessness, homelessness, right, they don't have that. Their day-to-day, there is no compassion. There is no hope. There is no one that really cares. So they were able to receive that care and find stability. This is Sadie a couple of years ago, where she came with her husband and was able to just talk a little bit to some of our team that was actually there. Many of you may know of Gwen Weisling. She retired this year. Sad. But Gwen was around at Bethlehem Inn about the same time. And in a kind of similar vein to Emilio, she just graduated that previous year, and she was going into social services. It's just an astounding thing to see these ripple effects when you find someone that actually cares and like gives you the help you need. Like, it moves on into the future, you know? It doesn't just end there. And I know if there are any teachers here, that's the same thing, right? But teachers, you don't get to hear all the gratitude until later. You just got to deal with the kiddos being upset with you and saying 6, 7. Anyone have kids saying 6, 7 right now? Yeah. And Josh, I don't know if you remember me, but yeah, Reach. And it was Emma, right? Bradley, that's it, yeah. I used to work with Josh's kids. I want to kind of turn some things over to Jon, because Jon will have a little bit better of an idea of like the ways that you can get involved other than volunteering. If you want to volunteer, awesome opportunity. I'm telling you, it will completely change your opinion of what's going on right now and the people affected, because it is people.
I think Jordan's a great example of the wonderful people we get to work with at Bethlehem Inn. Been here, like you said, for a few years, 4.5 years. I'm pretty new to Bethlehem Inn. As Elizabeth mentioned, thank you. I came from another organization that many of you would know, J, and kind of made the move over for a number of reasons, but it's been a wonderful transition for myself personally. And I think what makes my job especially easy is that the community, if they know about Bethlehem Inn, tends to embrace Bethlehem Inn. I think we have pretty amazing community support. We have a wonderful group of volunteers. We have almost 400 active volunteers, and the list of volunteers that are in our database is much bigger than that, but almost 400 active volunteers. For anybody that would know, like for an organization, that is a lot in this community in Central Oregon. And we have volunteers that have been with us for 15, 20 years that we might see every week. And we have volunteer opportunities that kind of run the gamut from front desk volunteer, which is pretty active, kind of, there's a lot to do. You're interacting with participants constantly, all the way up to volunteering in our donations closet, where you might not interact with almost anybody. You know, if you're a person that's like, oh, I just like to organize things. If I opened your garage and it was really organized, come talk to me about working in our donations closet. My garage is not organized, but that's okay. So that's a real need. Our volunteers are at the core of what we do. So many people that interact with Bethlehem Inn, whether you're a participant living at the inn, or you're a community member dropping off a donation or coming in to say hi, you are highly, highly, highly likely to have your first point of contact be a volunteer. So we trust and we rely on those volunteers heavily. And of course, we appreciate them and we need them really to work. So if you're interested, we have volunteer opportunities abound in our Bend shelter. Our Redmond shelter, if anybody's ever tried to get involved as a volunteer there, has been a longer, a more challenging undertaking for a number of reasons, very practical reasons. First and foremost, it's our newer location. It's only been around for a few years now. We're still figuring out what that can look like for volunteers. The level of kind of activity going on at that shelter is lower, not just because there's less people living there, but because of the nature of when participants are at that shelter, they're there for longer. They're typically, coming from a more stable situation already, but need to be in a shelter situation to work towards stable housing. They might be with us for a few months at that location. There's just less going on for a volunteer. However, I will say, and you truly are one of the first group of people that we are going to tell this to. So there's a lot of details to be ironed out. So I'm not going to have, if you have follow-up questions, I'm not going to have a lot I can give, but we are opening a small kind of boutique thrift store in Redmond on our shelter property. It's an existing building, and the real point of opening that is, one, we have an enormous amount of support and donations that come in with clothes, et cetera, and we do our absolute best to utilize all of it. But we just from a space standpoint inevitably end up with a lot of stuff that gets donated that we either can't use because it's outside of what we are able to, what we allow for donations, or it's just more than we can use or will anticipate using in the near term. We send a lot of items out to partner agencies. We don't waste anything, but we look at that and say, hey, you know what if we are able to use some of those products that we would have otherwise sent away, put them in our thrift store, sell them for a very reasonable cost, and 100% of those dollars that come in go right back into the organization. We own the building that we're putting it in, so it is going to be truly, somebody walks in, buys a $10 shirt, $10 goes right into the organizations and the programming, serving the participants and families. So that's really big for us. It's truly a big change in a lot of ways for the organization, but in the context of volunteers, that is a place where we want volunteer help. In Redmond, we'll have consistent schedule. It's pretty cool. You'll interface with the public, of course, constantly. You'll be an advocate for the Bethlehem Inn when you're in that position. And it's pretty low stress. That's the design. It's a small space, so it's not going to be a lot of kind of, organizing or tasks, adjustments. You'll just be there interfacing, helping people out, running a sale, and really doing a pretty amazing service for Bethlehem Inn. So that information will be out there. If you're interested in the next month or so, just keep an eye out, or you can reach out to us, and we'd be happy to connect you with how to get involved in that way. For us, when we talk about what the organization needs, of course, financial support, right? Any nonprofit standing in front of you is that's on their list, whether they say it or not, is financial support from the community. We are largely dependent, our budget is largely dependent on the support, the financial support of the community, and we have wonderful support, stable, wonderful support. But as things evolve, as people's budgets change, as the load on individuals' budgets change, that has an effect, whether direct or indirect, on any organization that you'll meet or talk to in this community. And so we're always thinking about, well, what are we doing? What could we be doing more of? What could we be doing differently to make sure that the community knows and believes and trusts and supports what we do? One thing that I want to mention in terms of what somebody might support when they're supporting Bethlehem Inn, we look at the Ben shelter. It's been around for 26 years, or that organization's been around for 26 years. Most of that time is operating out of the Ben location. But we have this wonderful facility and shelter and resource in Redmond that we're still very excited about. We're putting the thrift store on site there. What the Redmond location does not have is a families program like our Ben shelter does. So, Jordan mentioned this, our Ben shelter and our Redmond shelter are almost always full. Depending on the time of year, our individual adults rooms and beds at our shelter, sometimes we may have a little less than full, but typically that's full. What is always full is our families units, always. So that's, in our mind, as an organization, that's what we look at and say, well, where can we serve better? How can we serve more and serve the need more effectively? And for us, it's looking at the families. What do we have for the families in need in this community? And I think we can do more. It's not as easy as just saying that and making it happen, right? There's a lot that has to be done. adjusted, created in order to serve more families. But the Redmond location is where we envision down the road, whether that's just down the road or a long ways down the road, is being able to serve families on that property, on site in Redmond. So when we talk about support from the community, that's part of what we want that support to be going towards, is that vision of serving more families within this community, because we, on the ground, see that as a very clear and tangible need. We are we always run food drives, and people drop off food donations to us all the time at the Redmond and the Bend location. The Kiwanis Club does wonderful work. I know that you donate a ton of food through the Redmond food program to, I think, the St. Vincent de Paul, right? The food pantry. That's amazing. I'm not asking for anything different except to know that we run a food drive every fall. If you have a business that you see traffic of any sort, like, yeah, you get a few people in a day or 1,000 people in a day in and out, we have boxes that we would love to be able to leave at your business. It's pretty passive, stays there, has some information on it. People can leave food in there. And again, in no way would it ever intend to take away from what you're already doing to provide that food and those resources. Whether that food donation goes to Redmond Food Program or Project and the food pantry, whether it goes to Bethlehem Inn, it's all going towards the community, and so we're grateful for that. And then as far as kind of what's next for the organization, we're just going to keep doing what we do. Jordan's described kind of our mission, how we implement our mission with the people we serve and the community that we serve in. And in that sense, and in most senses, we are very stable and committed to that mission of transforming lives together through shelter, help, and hope. And our goal, as I've said, is to expand and grow however we need to serve whoever is in need. And we're open to questions.
Questions and an open invite to come to Bethlehem Inn.
Yes, thank you. Please, yeah, if anybody wants to ever tour, you can reach out to us. We'll schedule it. It's really important. If you've never been in the inn, whether it's the Redmond shelter or the Bend shelter or both, I would imagine for most people, myself included, the first time I set foot in there years ago, it's a really important reminder of what we are providing to the community members who need our help. It's safe, it's approachable, it's warm, and it's active. And I think it's really important to see that. So I would love for anybody and everybody to come and visit. Yeah.
Hi. Well, of course, we drive by and you have a board and you say what you need, coffee, toilet,
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah.
How's that working? Is that working out pretty good?
It is pretty effective. Yeah, I mean, if anyone's driven up right Fifth, you probably see our little marquee sign. We update that pretty regularly. So when you see something on there, it's almost certainly an actual need. We track what we have, what we're low in quantity of. We go through an enormous amount of products and food, et cetera, hygiene items, and so when we put that up there, those are like the top priority.